Hi, I'm Patrick.
And I'm Liv.
And this is the Mach-E vlog. Today we're going to talk about a meeting that we and some other EV enthusiasts had with Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford.
Woo, let's go.
A couple of weeks ago, you may have heard Jim Farley was doing an EV road trip. And at one of those stops, we got to meet him. And we wanted to make this video to sort of summarize and let you guys know, first of all, like how that was overall about the experience, but some of the great information that Jim Farley shared with us, as well as what we shared with him. So let's tell you about, first of all, like how this all came about.
Well, it came as a complete surprise to us. We were actually reached out to by Ford and they said, do you want this opportunity? Of course, we said, yes, please. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And we didn't know who else was being reached out to. We didn't know what or anything like that. We just knew take the day off work and be in this vicinity, basically. It literally wasn't until the day before, I think, that we found out who else was going to be joining us on this. And that's when the rosters sort of panned out and we started to see what they were shooting for and what kind of opportunities they were giving with this experience.
And I did hear last year in Las Vegas, actually it was earlier this year, around CES. We were actually in Las Vegas at the time and we heard that there was like a Ford EV meetup, and I was like, what are you talking about? We weren't there. And they had a bunch of Ford Lightning owners, and I think that's why we didn't go to that one, is like we didn't have a Lightning. And they met with Ford engineers and Ford marketing people, and they sort of gave their feedback. And I thought this might be the same thing. So they were looking for Ford EV owners. But what was surprising to me is they also got some not like, as you would say, like, I mean, we're
Ford EV owners.
Yeah. I mean, we're super into Ford. We're not, I don't want to call us, like Ford fans. We like our Mach-E. We made a channel about it.
Though, like I've never had a Ford before. We have the Mach-E and I think it's aesthetically gorgeous, but I have no history with Ford. You have a history with Ford. So we're definitely varied, but yeah, they picked people who had Ford EVs and got rid of them, which is very interesting.
Yeah, that was Eric. He's a friend of ours here in San Diego. He has a Model S Plaid. He has a Rivian R1S that he got after he sold his Lightning. But as he has told me many times, like he's gone through like all of the like compliance EV vehicles. There's been a lot throughout the year. So he's tried out a lot of vehicles, but he also has a Tesla now, I believe, or well, besides the Plaid, I think he has a Model Y as well. I'm not sure. But he loves Tesla and he's very much a Tesla fan. I think he'll admit that. I think it's in his YouTube name. He goes by Mechanica, I believe, Dictionary Hill actually on Twitter/X. So we'll put links to like everybody that was included. The other ones that I thought were a bit surprising, Marty and Will, we know them from SoCal EVs, but before that, Tesla Club SoCal, they have like two of the most famous Teslas in Southern California. He just sold one of them because they got a Porsche Taycan, but he owns a Lightning. And Marty, you're a fan of her.
I think Marty is great. Her Model 3 looks beautiful. I've done the art for their t-shirt for one of their events that was sort of colored based on her Model 3. It's absolutely gorgeous. But I've been a fan of hers for a while because she's another great woman in this industry. I'm still in the process of writing a story about her for A Girl's Guide to Cars because she started Tesla Club SoCal. So she basically orchestrates all of these enormous Tesla gatherings. She helped put on Tesla Takeover and sort of unify North and South Tesla groups, whatever. And so it was only natural that her and Will, her husband, made SoCal EVs. Since they obviously love Tesla, they love other EVs, they have a Lightning, they have a Taycan. And SoCal EVs is a group of SoCal people who have EVs and gather together. But it was definitely a great choice to bring them along, but not a Ford fan choice, right? It wasn't like giving an opportunity to people who are just going to fawn over the situation. They are obviously fans of other EVs as well. And so it was clear that the people who were brought together were there to give input and to share thoughts and wants and wishes, and we did, and we had that opportunity.
The Ford fans that they did bring, Joe, he runs the Northeast Lightning Club. Jace has been very active on Twitter. I believe he's going to run the Midwestern Lightning Club. He used to have a Mach-E, but now has 2 Lightnings. Sergio has always been active. He used to have a Tesla, but now he has a Ford. Actually has 2 Mach-Es and a Lightning. Ashlea, founder of the Girls Guide,
Mustang Mach-E Girls Club on Facebook. We have an interview with her. I know I've messed that up too myself. Yeah. But we have an interview with her. We got to interview her on the rooftop at Ford Cars and Coffee, where we were making crepes powered by an F-150 Lightning.
Yeah.
So really fantastic group of people.
And I think, looking at the Ford fans that they brought, I think one of the things that we offer is that we, all of us, are very active in the community, but we're not 100% everything Ford does is fantastic. We are also in contact with people that have complaints about these cars. We know, we've posted the issues that we've had occasionally while charging, slow charging issues. We express our disgruntlement with the potential for the Blue Cruise pricing. So we don't just 100% Ford, every decision they make is perfect. We want to give honest and good feedback because we just want cars to get better. And it's I just want to give my 2 cents to make that happen.
Well, and if I can say, if it's not clear to you guys, we want to be a megaphone for everything that you have to say. The only reason that we have any visibility or we're able to create this content or have these opportunities is because you guys take the time to watch us and support us, which is so amazing. And in that same token, by that same, whatever the saying is, we want to elevate your voices. So if you have problems, if you have wishes, whatever it is, we want to be that megaphone and just shout it out for you because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. Yeah. And it's a very special experience.
It was interesting because we got word that this is a feedback session. And I think we've all worked for employers that have said hey, the boss wants honest feedback. And then you go, you know what? I don't like that you made me work the weekend. And then they're told, well, if you don't like working the weekends, go find someplace else to work. It's you really didn't want feedback. You just wanted all positive feedback. So I had in my mind, I was let's sort of see how this is going to go. And I felt like we were actually given the opportunity to provide honest feedback. The one that I personally gave was I want data on the screen. I want to see the charging speed, as well as other information about battery temperature and a little bit more nerdier stuff, but way more information on the screen for charging speed. Ford has heard this repeatedly, but it was nice to be able to tell Jim Farley directly. Liv had one that I'm sure many of you have had.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. So a couple of weeks ago, I was in the prosthetist office. That is a leg doctor. I'm an amputee. A prosthetist makes your fake leg. I guess that's the best way to say it. So I was in the prosthetist office and I get a phone call from Melissa with Out of Spec, and they're shooting a video, Model Y versus the Mach-E. So we chat about it, and then we watch that video in a couple weeks' time, shortly after that. And the Model Y won for her. The Mach-E lost because it doesn't have dog mode. And I thought about her, and I thought about so many of you guys, and we have this wish too. The dog mode is so essential. It's so divisive, and it's so important to so many people. Our dogs are part of our family. So that was what I asked for.
Yeah, and a couple of the people that were there that had Teslas could vouch that it's very nice to have in their Tesla. Rivian has it as well. And they also brought up that it's a pet mode, and it's like the same functionality extends into camping mode. If you want to like sleep in your, go car camping, you just, can do the same thing. So to us, we gave that feedback, and I remember Jim Farley just sort of like, oh, tell me more about this and why you want this. And that was actually at the very point where he was like, told his staff, it was like, we're collecting all of these, or is everybody writing these down? And we got an email from the staff that said, please send us anything that was left out of the meeting. We're going to include everything in the meeting if you have more information. And then they verified, like gave us a few days, and then they verified and they said, as promised, we have sent that information directly to Jim Farley. So I feel confident that the information was sent back. Another one I thought was brilliant, and this sort of goes into some other things, but Jim Farley in his road trip has been using Blue Cruise. He, I guess in Detroit, he's using Blue Cruise 1.0. While he was on his road trip, he was using a Lightning where they loaded like a beta version of Blue Cruise that's coming to the Lightning at some point. I'm guessing it's like 1.3 something or whatever that's down the road for the Mach-E and the Lightning. So it sounded really cool. He was very enthusiastic about it. It has some of the features that we've seen in 1.2, where it can do assisted lane changes, in-lane repositioning, and some other stuff. And somebody said, well, it'll do the in-lane repositioning where it scooches over if there's a big truck. He goes, wouldn't that be great? And will it scooch over for motorcycles out here in California, because motorcycles are allowed to lane split? And he was like, oh, that's interesting. I'll have to talk to the staff. So again, no CEO is going to make promises on the spot like that, but you could tell he's like, I'm going to go and check that one out, because some of those things, they just resonate with anybody that's using the system. So I thought that was really cool.
And that was Eric who
I think Eric, that was his suggestion. So, and overall, like if you're wondering like how this was, is like I think we could sort of describe the overall, like we gathered as EV enthusiasts. They sort of like said, go gather at Galpin Ford. That's where they were going to have the stop. If you don't know Galpin Ford, they're huge in LA, but in the world, they're like the largest Ford dealer, I believe, by volume. They, the first time I heard of Galpin Ford was at the LA Auto Show in 2019. There was like a section of like these custom cars and like modded cars, and it was the Galpin like custom hall or something like that.
We actually have footage of that, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah.
They had a lot of loud music in there, so we don't have talking footage, I remember, but just walking through, and they were beautifully painted. There was like a wall of EVs. It'll be interesting to see what it's like now. But
yeah, it was like apparently Galpin, everybody just knows them. That was our first introduction to them, and it was really cool because first of all, we met at Galpin for lunch, and I was like, okay, this is weird. But they actually have a cafeteria there, and it got us sort of like a way to like pre-meet the other EV enthusiasts, which we knew everybody in the room, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
From other events.
Yeah, it was actually really sweet because the Galpin Ford Diner, there was a gentleman there celebrating his birthday. So I don't know if it was like a place that a lot of locals love or whatever, but it was cool that we got to meet at a Ford place. And they sort of stretched out lunch. So we shortly before this, we found out who was going to be in attendance. We were super psyched. Ashlea's in, where I keep mixing
Georgia.
Georgia. She's in Georgia. Joe is in...
near Albany.
Near Albany. Terrible. So people
and
that
Jace's
we've been...
came in from Ohio. Sergio from Northern California.
So we were like one of the more local people, super psyched to see everyone who was coming in. So, oh no, we have to extend lunch, whatever. We all had a great time, but we didn't know why it was being extended until later. The main hall where we went, this beautiful hall with amazing vehicles, the Galpin show room, I guess.
Yeah, well, it wasn't their showroom. It was their
Keep clinking my watch.
yeah, it was their like Hall of Fame type thing of Galpin Auto Sports or something like that.
It was super gorgeous, shiny floors, shiny vehicles, beautiful lighting, like the best that you can imagine. So when we finally get there and see the vibe and everything, Jim Farley comes in and we're all sitting in a circle waiting for him, and his spot's right there. Patrick is mic'd up and we're all excited. So it wasn't till later that we saw that the area that Jim Farley came from was where he'd been meeting The Rock, like Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and everyone who worked at Galpin Ford there was meeting The Rock as he picked up his F-150
Raptor.
His Raptor.
Yeah.
Okay. So he didn't pick up an EV, but still really cool. And it's crazy that we were all like sitting and having lunch, and then we're like getting in our circle and The Rock's right there. But so cool that everyone who worked at that facility got to meet Jim Farley, got to meet The Rock, and that this was part of an experience. I didn't even know if it was, I guess it was shared on social media, but it was pretty chill.
They shared some of this after the EV portion of the road trip was done. They're like, by the way, while I was in LA, got to meet The Rock and give him his brand new truck. So that was cool. And like I said, like Liv said, like we didn't mind, like I remember they were like, hey, sorry, we're taking a little bit longer. Jim's running a little bit late. And I was just like, really? Is it time already? We're still
chatting.
We're still talking and chatting. And then we went over and they had like chairs around in a circle. And I was like, this is a weird setup. But it really was like, everybody sit down, and we were just waiting for Jim. They're like, we'll leave this chair in the middle for Jim. I did get mic'd up. Ford did record what was going on as well. I'm sure they're going to use it, maybe not like in PR, but I think they use it like in internal updates or whatever. So they had cameras, stuff rolling. Basically, it's like we were like there to meet with Jim. We didn't like stick a microphone in his face or anything like that. We were there to share our feedback, and Ford was there to record it. So we're happy with that. We're happy that we got the opportunity just to share our thoughts.
But we didn't know how it was going to be, and we didn't know what it was going to be like. So the whole sharing the feedback thing, it wasn't performative. It wasn't like get everyone in a circle and everyone pretend that you're saying things. We heard lots of cool stuff. Some really cool stuff. And it was definitely candid and real and intimate experience. And we wish we could share the entire thing with you, but we will share what we can.
We took notes, and I tried to remember as much as I could, or like right after, I think it was the next day. I tried to write down everything that I remembered, because we shared a lot of information with him. But it was also very cool because first of all, I think Jim Farley is a car guy. He loves racing cars. He's like just loves cars. And I got the sense that he loves what is coming for Ford and Ford EVs. And he wanted to just spew out information. And there wasn't anything like groundbreaking, like, oh my God, I've never heard him say that before. But it was like just to connect the enthusiasm and some of the things that he was talking about. And again, like we wrote down some notes, but the next Ford EV, again, I'm putting some 2+2 together here, but he was talking about a 3-row Ford EV that's coming up. I think it's going to be an electric version of the Explorer, not the one that we've seen for the European market, but a US version one. Believe that's what's coming down the pipeline next. Maybe they'll just give it a different name. Maybe they'll surprise us. But he was very excited about that, and just basically just saying it's going to have the exterior room of an Explorer, but the interior room will be like an Expedition. So basically maximizing the space and using some of the advantages, I think, of having an EV platform to maximize space. And that's always cool. Like we always want more room, but we don't want to drive these giant vehicles. So I think that's going to be huge.
Yeah, and that the third row is going to be like a concierge movie experience.
And I wanted to ask, what do you mean by that?
I know, well, and I was going to say, because like we don't go to movies that much, but like now the movies, you have the beds where you lie back, and some of them, they bring you the food. So I just envision like reclining seats, and like, is it single screens, or is it like, which BMW has the big screen?
The i7, I believe.
So the i7, we haven't even seen that in person, but like that's what I envision, is like reclining. And
the other thing that was really interesting is he was super focused on range and efficiency. So he was talking about like these vehicles are going to need over 300 miles of range, like 320 miles of range at highway speeds. And, not sure if that's, it's probably 100 down to 0, 70 mile per hour test, 320, 340 miles of range. But he was talking about like the efficiencies. And I thought it was really interesting because this is where you can see some of the CEO and the number cruncher come in as well, because he was saying like, if you can drive efficiency through aero, or whatever, and you can drive those efficiencies, what it means is like you can do a smaller battery. And if you do a smaller battery, then that means you can save cost manufacturing, which you can also pass that along to consumers as well. So for him, it's like you want to create an efficient vehicle, one, because it'll go far, but two, because it can reduce your cost. Reducing your costs means you can make a more competitive product. So I think that was exciting to see his enthusiasm for that.
And on top of that, he also pressed the concept of fast charging. So like smart design, aero, and fast charging, as opposed to giant batteries. It seemed really cool and indicative.
And this is something like, we've had so many conversations with some of the EV enthusiasts there, like with Kyle Connor, as well as like the idea is like, you don't necessarily need 400 or 500 miles of range. 300 is even stretching it. Like you don't really even need that. You need to be able to get in, charge for 15 minutes or whatever, get back out on the road, do another couple hundred miles. You don't need to do the full 300 in every go, but you don't want to spend, basically what we're doing in the Mach-E now. We drive for 180 miles. We stop for like 35 minutes. We do another 180 miles. That's good enough for us. We're satisfied with that. But yeah, what you really want to do to get the mass EV adoption. And one of the things that Jim talked about in general, and like we all know this is happening, is the first round of EVs, especially for Ford, have gone out to the EV enthusiasts, EV nerds that sort of knows what's coming with the territory. Now it's like once you get past that, now you're getting out to the general population of like people that just want a car, and they're not like, oh my gosh, I want an EV. I just want an EV so bad. It's like, hey, I just want an Explorer, and I don't really care how it's propelled, but I want to make it to my vacation spot in Arizona, and I don't want to have to stop every 2 hours for a half an hour. I'm not going to put up with that. So that's like he realizes that, the EV industry realizes that as well.
Yeah, and we know that's so important. Like the more people that we talk to, the more we hear, my next car is going to be an EV. I think people know that it's coming, even people who are resistant. So this transition needs to start being more seamless because there are less people that are going to be doing it willingly like us. So then something else that Jim talked about was the NACS transition. And it seems like this really goes hand in hand. Like he expressed that it was a no-brainer, and it makes sense because it just makes things easier for everyone. It makes it more accessible. It's going to be harder for them, I'm sure, for the automakers and for Tesla.
And we didn't get to meet his son, but his son was traveling with him. And if you guys recall when Jim Farley and Elon Musk did the announcement about NACS, he mentioned that they were on a road trip out near, I believe, Reno last year. And his kids were like, hey, why can't you charge at that charging station? I was like, oh, that's a Tesla one. And his kid was one of the drivers behind, like, see, you gotta complete that Tesla deal. Well, on this road trip, he gave the example, and we saw his kid off in the distance, and a little bit out of the spotlight. But he said that just the day before, they were charging at one of the big charging EA stations between San Francisco and LA, and he picked the wrong one. And he's like, my kid never let me live that down. He's like, he kept ragging on me the whole time. We got back into the car. He's like, we could have been gone 20 minutes ago if you would have picked the right charger. So as much as, I don't want anybody to have charging problems, it was sort of nice to see Jim Farley have charging problems. We've had relatively good success. We've never really been like stranded because of charging. We have had a lot of instances where we had to switch stations or it's not giving us what it should. So
unplug, replug, plug into the other handle.
Yeah. So it's sort of like, yep, that's what we deal with. And that's why I think, he made the comment. It was like a no-brainer that they had to do NACS. And with NACS, the Tesla Supercharger network, and he, I think he really gets, just doing the short road trip, the community and what we're all going through, no matter what, brand we have other than Tesla, that there's like this community, and he's like, it's very interesting to observe that community. One of the things he's like, what can Ford do? And we're like, well, just never ever give out free charging. And he's like, wait, why didn't you guys want free charging? And it's like, because VW and Kia and Hyundai and everybody giving out the free charging, that's one of the reasons why the chargers are so cluttered. There's people charging to 100%. And he's like, oh, okay. And he's like, took that note, and as much as I would love to have free charging for 2 years or 3 years or whatever, it really does overall EV adoption. I think it messes things up. So,
and I think it was Will who mentioned that, which was a good mention.
Yeah,
unfortunately, it's true. Yeah,
I think he realized, like from Ford's perspective, why they don't want to give out free charging for a couple of years. But I think he was surprised that we were like, no, don't give us that for free.
But he definitely did seem interested in the community and was experiencing the community aspect of it. Obviously, being the CEO of this major company, it's going to be a different experience for him. But he was curious to hear about our experiences with the community. And we shared how much we adore you guys and how amazing this is. Like, I'm sure it's just so cool. And it's not... okay, so it is about all EVs. Like, we're having a great time with meeting with all EVs, and it's super exciting. And the Mach-E community is also super cool. So we have this just huge mass of us, Mach-E owners, all EVs. And I want to know about like what other EVs have amazing communities too. Now that we are borrowing Kyle's Leaf, maybe we have to meet the Leaf community.
Yeah.
The Leafers? The leafies.
Something like the leaves.
The leaves. I don't know.
But you're sort of forgetting like one of the coolest parts. And
well, it's part of the community. I don't know where it is.
1 second.
Hold. Fancy pony. So this ties into the whole community thing. If you have a Mach-E and we've met you at a charging station, you probably got a fancy pony. If you've met us at a meetup, you probably got a fancy pony. And if you're Jim Farley, then you also got a fancy pony from me. We found these at the Baker charging station. It's a super central, awesome charging station. It was a perfect place to find these. And I knew at that moment that was what I wanted to hand out to other Mach-E owners because it's a fancy pony. A Mach-E is a fancy pony.
And this started because I talked about the duck thing because she's like, I wish we could give something to other people at charging stations or when we just see other Mach-E's. And I was like, oh, it's like the duck thing. And she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, Jeep owners give each other
I told you
ducks.
About the duck thing.
What?
I told you about the duckies.
Well, I told somebody.
He told somebody.
I told somebody.
Because my sister has a Jeep. So she got duckied one day.
Okay.
So now people are getting ponied. But it's our ducky, right? So we found these at the Baker charging station. We've given these out for ages. And we got to give this out to Jim Farley, which was super cool.
Well, it was neat because Liv, he was talking about the community around charging stations, And Liv's like, I like to give people fancy ponies. And he reaches over to hand it to Jim Farley. And I just saw him take it. And he was like, it's really interesting. Blah, 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 blah. And 100% honest, I thought it was just like he glazed over the fact that he got this little 5-cent fancy pony and probably would never think about it ever again.
And in that same moment, Ashlea with the Mustang Mach-E Girls Club, she then gave him her little trinket she gives to people, this beautifully wrapped little opalescent bag of a unicorn with a little card, like super cute, not a deformed little weird pony. So I also thought that he was just like, oh, cool, yeah, and then shiny things.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, I thought it like he had moved on. But then a couple of days later, it popped up on his social media. He posted a little video. I think it was actually the next day.
So we have this pink flying pony that I was given by a Mach-E enthusiast, and they give this out at all the charging stations to other people that they meet for the first time. So, and like a little welcome package to being a Ford EV user, which I will display this proudly in my office in Dearborn.
Yeah, so that was just so exciting and so sweet and genuine, because it really wasn't like I said, here, this is an important thing. It was something that could have been tossed aside and wouldn't have really been noticed. So the fact that it was an important thing to celebrate this weird little thing that we do as a community. I do fancy ponies. Ashlea does these amazing things. We've seen lots of people do the Hot Wheels, the Matchbox cars. It's so cool and it's so fun. And we've seen people do this with their Teslas too, of course. So we're all enthusiastic about our rides. And
it goes back to, I think he was genuinely fascinated by how EV people are at chargers, because like when you have a gas car, you go and you pump gas, you sort of fiddle on your phone and you're back in your car and you go. But like a lot of EV people tend to, and especially us, maybe we just talk more than others. Do you guys do this or not? Maybe we're different, but we're
definitely chatty.
Yeah, and I told Jim Farley, like we're the type that the cars say charge to 57%, but we charge to 85 or 90% because we go and we start talking to people, and then it's like, oh shoot, the car's ready. Oh, we got to move out of the way, and then it's
Now, don't be deterred though, because if you are not a chatty person, it's okay. You can sit in your car and you'll be fine. You don't have to talk to anyone. We are just chatty. We know lots of people who are not chatty EV people. And when we see people at charging stations that don't want to talk, you can tell, so we're not going to talk to you. And there've been lots of times that we would never film someone if they didn't want to or anything like that. So, it's definitely a different experience. It's like the new water cooler, right? But you don't have to. You can just go get your water and go away if you want.
Yeah, it's you get to handle it as you want. But we do like meeting people, and we generally like asking people how they like their car, especially as we see new ones. So that's always fun and exciting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's especially cool that you don't just see one kind of EV at a charging station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a super exciting experience. I'm glad that we got invited. The biggest takeaways from me were, Jim was really on an EV road trip. He was experiencing some of the issues with charging. He was experiencing how great it is to use Blue Cruise on a road trip. So that was cool to see. I'm super happy that he shared his enthusiasms for what's coming. Did I mention T3?
No, did you?
Yeah, he really, I was hoping he would talk about T3. He really didn't say anything about T3, but he's like, you guys have heard about T3? And we're like, yes. Mm-hmm. And then he's just like, yeah, it's going to be like something, nothing you've ever seen. And I was just like, oh.
We didn't get anything other than a teaser.
So, but you can just sort of tell, it's just like, you guys heard about it? Like I want to tell you, but I can't tell you. So to me, it gave me some like confidence that things are going to be really good for Ford. They still have a lot of difficulties ahead in this transition. Anytime a major auto manufacturer has to shift their direction, it's very difficult. And this, in my opinion, is like the most difficult shift they've ever had to make. So it's going to be difficult for GM, Stellantis, Ford, VW, like all of them to make this shift. I'm feeling pretty encouraged. I'm with the enthusiasm behind the products, with the support that Ford is showing, trying to get that feedback. I'm doing another video soon. We'll just say soon, a general topic like that, because I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive into Ford's like current EV status and future EV plans, just out to like 2025, 2026, because they got a lot of stuff coming online and a lot of investments. And I don't know, like, it's out there. All the information is out there. I've not got like insider information, but when you start putting all the pieces together, I think it's very exciting. And then you add in the enthusiasm from their CEO, and I think it's very encouraging for Ford and for us, because we want to see the car that we have, thrive and prosper and be well supported. And to me, this shows that Ford is committed to doing that. And this also goes back, and I'm going to keep rambling a little bit. This also goes back to like the fact that they put the Mustang name on the Mach-E, which is, of course, was controversial. I'm not going to say it's controversial anymore, because that's been said and done. But it means that they put like a flagship name on the Mach-E. They put the F-150 name on the Lightning. So two of their most important brands that Ford has. And I think if nothing else, it's like if they would have come up with some other name, like the Blue E, I don't know, that's the lame name, car, if it died, it would just be like, wouldn't just never mention that name again. But this is a Mustang. The Lightning is the F-150. It's important to Ford for their legacy, for the Ford family. You got to remember, Bill Ford and I forget his sister's name, and like there's still members of the Ford family involved. They want their legacy to carry on, and this shows that like they put that important name out there so that they are going to stand behind it.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that we got the opportunity to share and have some voice in the future of this.
By the way,
tiny future.
I do want to say this is the second time I met Jim Farley.
Oh, yeah.
So last year in Detroit at the launch of the 7th generation Mustang, we were at that event with...
I got to cover it.
Thousands of the people.
For a Girl's Guide to Cars.
Covering it for a Girl's Guide to Cars. And I saw Jim Farley, and he's like, was swamped by people. And I'm like, I'm going to go over and say hi. And I went over, and like he was about to walk away, and I like got his attention. I was like, hi, I'm Patrick. I make the Mustang Mach-E vlog with my wife. And I like indicate over to Liv. And he's like, shook my hand, and he's like, the Mach-E is the reason why we can keep making a new generation of Mustang, because blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, darn it. Like, I got the spiel, but he was swamped then. So this was a much different. If you're curious, I think we ended up spending about 45 minutes with him.
Yeah. And obviously it felt like such a short amount of time to go around the circle and share our thoughts. But if we ever get this opportunity again, we will keep trying to lift up your voices too, and ask for things that we think would better the community and better the Mach-E. So please share your thoughts and share Fancy Pony, no. Share what you'd want and what you would say to Jim Farley. What would you say to Jim Farley? Put that down below. Because if we get the opportunity to meet him again, maybe we can share that too. Yeah.
It was interesting because there was a couple of things that I think were obvious to a lot of people that didn't get brought up, and I'll go ahead and say it, like the pricing of Blue Cruise, for example. I thought about that, but I also thought, like, I'm sure that's already got back to him. And I'm sure those are huge discussions going on at Ford. So I tried to bring up some things like, I thought pet mode was a brilliant one. And I thought, something like the more data on the screen. I'm like, that's something that the CEO
Essential.
Can be like, make that happen. And it's like, makes it happen. It's not like we're going to make this decision based on one little conversation with a small, tiny YouTuber. And then like, oh my God, yes, you're right. We're going to change our whole policy and this is going to cost us millions of dollars.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, sort of shitting for the things that we thought could happen.
Same thing. Somebody asked, did we ask about the, if we're getting the NACS adapter for free? And I'm like, first of all, I'm 99% sure it's not going to be free. And they don't know the cost of it yet. They don't know when yet. So I was like, I didn't want to waste my token on that. Not waste. Because I think it would have been interesting to see, but I think I would have got the answer of like early next year. We don't know the pricing. Stay tuned.
It is funny though, because I'm sure you guys have had to do this too. Like, what's your 30-second elevator pitch or 15-second, right? Like, you're in an elevator with Jim Farley for 15 seconds. What are you going to say? Pet mode.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Hopefully we get another 15 seconds at some point.
Yeah. I need to get to sleep so that I can
we should get some sleep.
That's my hint. Let's wrap it up.
On that note, thank you so much for joining us for this video in which we detailed and wrapped up our entire experience meeting Jim Farley. Thank you so much for your support of us and for this channel, because it is truly because of you guys for watching us, liking, subscribing, sharing, whatever it is, that we were given this opportunity and that we continue to, hopefully, knock on wood, get opportunities. So please, like, subscribe, all that stuff, because it really does help. And we're just so happy. A huge thank you to our patrons who support our channel financially every month. And we support them in ways by giving them behind the scenes and trinkets if you're an Unbridled.
Yes.
What is this?
For $2, $4, or $6 a month, you can be Whisper, Engage, or an Unbridled patron and get the benefits of that as well.
Oh gosh, we haven't given them a fancy pony.
I know, that's what I said.
Oh, okay.
Well, now that we have more,
we can give them,
because we were running low.
If you're a patron, act surprised when you.
I don't know what you're talking
nothing.
about.
On that note, just remember, throw whatever you drive, whether it has a fancy pony or not. Enjoy. I thought we were sneaking away.
Are we?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Enjoy the ride. Bye.
I'm still in the frame.
Your butt.